especially when we're talking about it in the context of we must cut investments in Medicare, seniors must pay more, but don't ask us to cut subsidies to big oil. I urge my colleagues to vote no on the previous question. Yield back the balance of my time.
Lady yields her time. Gentleman from Utah.
I'm pleased to yield 3 minutes to the gentleman from Louisiana who lives in this area and understands the situation firsthand.
Gentleman from Louisiana is recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank my colleague from Utah for yielding. Couldn't disagree more with the comments that were made by the minority leader from California. What we're talking about here is high gas prices that people are paying at the pump today and why we're in this situation. Well, we're in this situation because of this administration's policies that have shut off American energy supply. This is supply and demand. Why do prices go up? Well, gee whiz, if the President of the United States says by policy we're going to close off billions of barrels of known reserves in America, what do you think that does to prices? Do you think that actually lowers prices? Of course, as you're seeing prices skyrocket at the pump, it's because of these policies. That's why we've seen the price of gasoline more than double since Barack Obama's been in office. And so, Mr. Speaker, what we're bringing today and what this rule addresses is the ability to start opening up some of those known areas here in America. Because, again, our demand continues to increase for oil here in this country. And while the President's out tilting at windmills, the prices at the pump continue to skyrocket because the President's saying run those jobs off to foreign countries like Brazil. He's bragging that he wants to create more energy jobs in Brazil. What we're saying is, Mr. President, we've got thousands of jobs here in America that we can create today. We've got billions of dollars that are being sent to foreign countries, many of whom don't like us, by the way. We can bring those dollars back, and by the way, that can also help us pay down the national debt that's out of control right now. And that's what this bill addresses. And what's their answer on the other side? My God, the President's talking about raising taxes on American energy. And the minority leader from California just emphasized it. She talked about a $30 billion tax increase on American energy production. You want to talk about a warped policy. If you look at what their plan is, you know, we're saying let's open up supply. Let's create jobs in America. I've seen it in South Louisiana. We've lost over 13,000 jobs in the energy industry just because of the President's policies in the last year, where he shut down production, said you can't go back to work drilling safely for known oil in America. But he wants to run those jobs off to foreign countries. And so that's what's happening. We saw one of the deepwater rigs go to Egypt just in the last few months. So an employer saying, I want to take 1,000 jobs and it's better to do business in Egypt because of these radical American policies on energy right now. So we're trying to turn that around and say, let's actually explore for energy here in America, creating thousands more jobs in America and bringing in billions more jobs that pay down our deficit. And their answer is raise $30 billion in taxes and, you know, go talk about big oil. Big oil's not going to pay that. Big oil's leaving. They're going to foreign countries. It's our local energy producers here in America who pay that tax, and you know what that ends up happening and equating to? That means higher prices at the pump, $30 billion in higher prices at the pump because of their policy, and they're bragging about it. They're saying let's raise taxes on American energy. By the way, their bill doesn't apply to energy that's produced in Saudi Arabia. So what do you think is going to happen? Now more oil is going to be coming in from Saudi Arabia because of their policies. We've got to reverse this radical approach and actually create jobs in America, create energy in America, and bring down the skyrocketing price of gasoline at the pump. And it can all be accomplished with this legislation here today that I strongly support. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I yield back.
Gentleman yields his time. Gentleman from Colorado.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to yield 3 minutes to the gentleman from Massachusetts, the ranking member of the Natural Resources Committee, Mr. Markey.
Gentleman from Massachusetts is recognized for 3 minutes.
I thank the gentleman very much. The oil companies are making windfall profits right now. Look at what just happened in the last 3 months. ExxonMobil made $10 billion. Shell, $8 billion. BP, $7 billion, $6 billion for Chevron, $3 billion for Conoco. And yet, the Republicans oppose allowing the Democrats to bring out here a motion that will take away tax breaks that are meant for companies that make toasters or aluminum foil, but not the oil industry. The oil industry does not need a subsidy from the American taxpayer as they're tipping consumers upside down at the pump every single day. We need to take back those tax breaks and use them. Use them to reduce the deficit, use them to help grandma with Medicare, use them for things that are important, but not for oil companies at this time. So, what have the Republicans decided to do? The Republicans instead have decided to squeeze Medicare, to squeeze the program for grandma so that they can find the revenues to give tax breaks to oil companies. And I'll tell you, the GOP has set up a legislative drill rig on top of the Medicare program to poke holes in our senior safety net. That's right, Mr. Speaker. The Republicans are building a pipeline into the pocketbooks of our seniors so that they can pump them dry. No money for Medicare, but plenty of breaks for the oil companies, and they're going to deny the Democrats the ability to have a vote here on the House floor on those tax breaks for oil companies here today. There's one thing that we can do in order to ensure that the speculators in the marketplace are told there is a cop on the beat, and that's to deploy the Strategic Petroleum Reserve right now. In 1991, Bush the first used it. The price went down 33%. In 2000, the president used the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. President Clinton, it went down 18%. Bush the second used it. In 2005, after Katrina, the price went down 9%. That's the weapon we can use right now and send a message to big oil, to OPEC, and to the speculators that we mean business. What the Republicans are saying here today is we are going to cut Medicare in order to have tax breaks for the wealthiest oil companies in the history of the world. That is not what the American people want to hear at this time of energy crisis in our country, with a danger pointed right at the heart of the American economy, and that is what OPEC and the speculators and big oil are doing to our country. Vote today on the previous question to give the American taxpayers the relief they need from these gifts which we give to big oil. Vote no on the rule and yes on the previous question.
Gentleman's time has expired. Gentleman from Utah.
I reserve.
Gentleman reserves. Gentleman from Colorado.
Thank you. I'd like to yield 2 minutes to the gentlewoman from Texas, Ms. Jackson Lee.
Gentlelady from Texas is recognized for 2 minutes.
I thank the distinguished gentleman, and I rise to ask in particular that we have a reasoned debate on this question. I come from the Gulf region and was appalled at the horror of the BP oil spill. My constituents are still suffering from that spill, and I recognize that we have a dual responsibility. That is to ensure that those individuals are made whole, and I might add that a better compensation system needs to be in place, but also that we restore jobs. A civil discussion is what is needed, and as an oil and gas lawyer and also a member of the Homeland Security Committee, which addresses the question of our own safety and security, we have to find a way to restore offshore deepwater drilling in a safe and secure manner. I'm disappointed that the Rules Committee did not take an amendment that I offered that would have modified the processing procedures of H.R. 1229 to restart that leasing process, to extend the time for the Department of the Interior to review safely and securely, and to eliminate the deemed provision, though I am supporting the Holt Amendment and, of course, the Moran Amendment. But frankly, I think the issue is energy at this time is multitasking, from nuclear to energy to solar to wind to biofuels. If we are in agreement with Brazil to do offshore deepwater drilling off the coast of Brazil, we need to restart it here in the United States, safely and securely. As relates to the expanded lease sales, the question has to be whether states are prepared for that offshore drilling and whether or not we have secured the kind of technology that will allow us to do it safely and securely. Energy companies have organized something called a containment group to develop that new technology. But what I would say is that this should not be captured in special interests where we try to get you politics of the Department of Interior or get you politics for President Obama. This is a time to get the politics ready for the American people, bring down gasoline prices, invest in energy, which includes deep water drilling in oil and gas, and let's get going on helping the American people. I yield back my time and ask for a reasoned discussion on this important issue.
Gentlelady's time has expired. Gentleman from Utah.
Please to yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Gohmert.
Gentleman from Texas is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, we heard from our friend from Massachusetts that the allegation that we over here on this side of the aisle were squeezing Medicare. Good grief. Even now, has the gentleman from Massachusetts not read the Obamacare bill? It cuts $500 billion out of Medicare. Man, $500 billion out of Medicare. Now, we heard from the Minority Leader Pelosi that we have a moral obligation to create jobs. Then what this administration has done under her definition is immoral, because this administration has been killing jobs. And we hear so much from the other side about the working poor. Well, coming from an area in Texas where we have lots of hard-working poor folks, that's who is being hurt by this administration's policies. When you shut off the jobs in the Gulf of Mexico, when you come out and say, we're going to tax these American companies even more, we're going to take away their subsidies, they're called business deductions, the cost of drilling, the cost of doing business. And who will be taxed? American companies. We will be putting further tariffs on not foreign products, but American companies. We drive ourselves more and more to foreign oil, and that's a mistake. Price controls is what President Carter did. He was going to show the energy companies, and as a result, we had no gas. We ran out of gas. It was a disaster. Salazar has shut down leases that were let after a 7-year process that could have produced as many as 1 trillion barrels of oil. You could have an immediate effect if you would encourage,
Recognized for an additional 1 minute.
If you would encourage your party's president to change course and start creating jobs, the energy industry would create 1 million jobs across the country if we open up the OCS. We've heard the testimony, 1 million jobs if ANWR is open, 1 million jobs if the North Slope is open. And what is more, we've also heard from people that know that $1 out of 4 is most likely attributable to speculation. The speculators look at what we do, and we make it harder and harder to produce our own energy. The speculation keeps going up. You could turn around $1 out of 4 overnight if we showed the world we're going to use our own energy. This country has been blessed with more natural resources when you put them all together, and this administration and the farmer majority has done more to put them off limits. It's time to get back to what the former speaker said was our moral obligation. You lower energy prices by using more of our own energy. You create jobs. You bring down the price that's killing the working poor. And that's a moral obligation.
Gentleman's time has expired. Gentleman from Colorado.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll yield two minutes to the gentlewoman from Florida, a former member of the Rules Committee, Ms. Castor.
Gentlelady from Florida is recognized.
I thank my colleague from Colorado. I rise in strong opposition to the rule and the underlying bill. In the state of Florida, we are still recovering from last year's BP oil blowout disaster. We're recovering economically and environmentally from the policies of the past that elevated oil company profits over safety. To add insult to injury, every summer the price of gas goes up, and we see it in Florida because our economy is largely tied to tourism. and we see it, and it pains us, and consumers know that they are messing around with the American consumer. They understand that the Wall Street speculators are making a profit, maybe 20% in that price of gas, and that is not fair. Why don't we start with a meaningful energy policy that addresses those speculators? Why don't we start, instead with continuing oil company giveaways, why don't we start with ending the taxpayer subsidies to the big oil companies? Just in the first quarter of this year, BP has made over $5 billion in profit. Exxon has made over $10 billion in profit. With the skyrocketing debt and deficit, why is it fair for the American taxpayer to be subsidizing the most profitable companies in the world? That is where we should begin this debate today, ending those oil company subsidies to bring down the price of gas, tackling the outrageous profits that go to the oil companies while the consumer is paying through the nose at the pump. My Republican friends are all on the wrong track when it comes to energy policy. We've got to prohibit Wall Street speculators from artificially inflating prices. We've got to adopt the Oil Spill Commission's recommendations to make drilling safe before we charge ahead and open up new areas to drill. There are millions of acres to drill. Millions of acres. All we're asking is fairness and safety as they proceed in doing so, so the American taxpayer will not have to pay any more.
Gentlelady's time has expired. Gentleman from Utah.
I'm pleased to recognize the gentleman from Louisiana, Mr. Landry, for 2 minutes. He's a member of the Resource Committee that provides a great deal of insight from his personal background.
Gentleman from Louisiana is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What amazes me is that the gentlelady from Florida must have missed the AP report a couple of weeks ago when it says that Florida was getting ready to experience another oil crisis, and it was in the fact that the price at the pump is going to impact tourism. Tourism, that's what I hear here all the time, are tourism jobs, jobs that normally pay minimum wage, when in my state, oil and gas jobs pay much better than that. If we want to get this economy rolling, we have to provide that economy with affordable energy. Not make-believe energy, not energy that comes in possibly 40 or 50 years from now. We need to apply affordable energy to this economy now. It will not get any better in this country until we give middle-class Americans affordable energy so that they can get to and from their job. Repealing Section 199 will endanger 600,000 barrels per day. 10% of our domestic production by 2017. Boy, that's really going to lower the price at the pump. They're concerned about Medicare and Medicaid. Well, where do you think those profits go? To shareholders. You know who those shareholders are? They're the American people. You know how many pension funds hold those shares of Exxon and Chevron in their portfolio? Why are we picking those winners and losers? Why again, it just amazes me as a freshman, it's hard for me to understand how we continue in this town to reward failure and punish winners. It just amazes me. I yield back. Thank you.
Gentleman yields his time. Gentleman from Colorado.
Thank you. I'd like to yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from Virginia, Mr. Moran.
Gentleman from Virginia is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Mr. Chairman, one thing we do know is that our constituents are paying about $4 a gallon for gas. What they have to ask is, where's all this money that they're paying going? Well, as you have seen, it's going in profits to the biggest oil companies. In fact, almost $30 billion went just in the last 3 months to the top 3 oil companies. About $11 billion to Exxon, about $9 billion to Shell, and over $7 billion to BP. Remember BP? Well, what are they doing with that profit? What they're doing is spending 90% of it on stock buybacks so that, of course, the remaining stock outstanding becomes even more valuable, thus enabling their executives to become even wealthier, and to stock dividends for their shareholders, and 10% to oil and gas exploration, and to TV advertising so they convince the American public otherwise. What this bill will do is to enable those who own oil company stock and run oil companies to grab up our last remaining oil reserves at a cost of $30 to $40 a barrel so that they can then sell it at $100 a barrel to make more profit. The bill is more about scoring political points and currying favor with the oil and gas industry that the current House majority can't seem to coddle enough. And they're betting that the next oil spill disaster that this legislation could enable through a return to weaker regulation than we had before the Gulf oil spill disaster. But they are betting that it will not be on their watch. In fact, that oil spill disaster that spilled 200 million gallons into the Gulf Coast waters occurred at a time of even tougher regulation that this bill will create. This bill returns us to a lax regulatory climate that existed before the disaster. It should be defeated. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman's time has expired. Gentleman from Utah.
I reserve.
Gentleman reserved. Gentleman from Colorado.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to yield 1 minute to the gentleman from New Jersey, the ranking member of the Energy and Natural Resources Subcommittee, Mr. Hull.
Gentlemen have 2 minutes.
We can yield the gentleman a minute and a half.
Gentleman from New Jersey is recognized for 1 1/2 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. This rule brings forward 2 bills that are the first of the majority party's amnesia acts, which ignore the safety and environmental concerns that were laid bare last spring and summer by the largest oil spill in United States waters. For the sponsors of this bill, it's as if the worst and most costly oil spill in history never happened. Last week, the Big 5 oil companies reported $32 billion in profits. That's just for the first 3 months of this year. Yet the majority solution is to protect the billions of dollars of tax breaks each year for these companies. Just to give you an idea, Exxon pays an effective tax rate of 0.4%. I imagine every person in America would like to have a tax rate of essentially 0. Yet the majority solution is to protect these tax breaks. Furthermore, they deem the environmental and safety regulations that existed before this accident in the Gulf as satisfactory. And let's be clear. How much will these bills reduce gas prices for the American people? $0 Scientists, engineers, our best energy analysts say we cannot drill our way to lower gas prices. This won't do it. Let's address the financial speculation that we've heard about, the real cause of high gasoline prices. You know, Exxon, with those huge profits, what do? They buy back their stock.
15 seconds.
Gentleman is recognized for another 15 seconds.
These actions needlessly endanger the lives of offshore workers, imperil the resources and livelihoods of fishermen. This legislation is designed to give big oil more handouts. These companies are not being responsible citizens. Vote no on the rule. Vote yes on my amendment.
Gentleman's time has expired.
On the bills.
Gentleman's time has expired. Gentleman from Utah.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May I inquire the gentleman from Colorado how many more speakers he has?
We have 1 remaining speaker.
Then I'll reserve.
Gentleman reserves. Gentleman from Colorado.
Thank you. I'd like to yield 1 minute to the gentleman from Massachusetts, Mr. Keating.
Gentleman from Massachusetts is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I rise to oppose this rule. Americans are feeling pain at the pump. Rising gasoline prices, and they're rising, folks. It's going to cost the average person another $800 per year at the rate of these increases. That wipes out the tax breaks that most Americans have just received. And it's going to hurt our economy, and it's hurting our national security. These oil companies are making increased profits as the money in our wallets flies right into the gas tanks. Now is the time to consider a sensible energy policy and to strip subsidies from oil companies. You know, it shocks every American taxpayer to know that they're required to fork over an additional $40 billion plus over the next decade to give tax subsidies and giveaways to these enormously profitable companies. What are they doing with that money? They're taking up to 90% of that and buying their stocks back, increasing their own personal wealth. So let's be clear. Oil companies don't need it. And if you don't believe me, ask them. The former CEO of Shell Oil says with higher oil prices, the subsidies aren't necessary.
Gentleman's time has expired.
Additional 15 seconds.
Gentleman's recognized for an additional 15 seconds.
Thank you. Friends on the other side of the aisle say they're all for the all-of-the-above strategy when it comes to oil. And let's be clear. They support oil above all, above Medicare, above putting police on the streets, above increasing reading teachers, and above protecting our coastal communities. I yield my time back. Thank you.
Gentleman yields back his time. Gentleman from Utah.
Yes, I yield 1 minute to the gentleman from South Carolina, another great new member of the Resource Committee.
Gentleman from South Carolina is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This isn't about oil company profits. This is about supply and demand, and we don't have the supply necessary to meet the energy needs in this country. But you know what? The American people know that we've got the resources here in this country, whether it's offshore, on the Outer Continental Shelf, or on federal lands that have currently, under this administration, been taken off the table for energy production. Supply and demand drives the price. We are reliant on foreign sources of oil, and a foreign group known as OPEC determines the price of that oil that they sell to us. We've got the resources in this country. This legislation will put the Gulf back to work, meeting the energy needs for the American people. I'm a small business owner. I doubt many people that serve in this body have ever run a business, met a payroll, and tried to meet their overhead. I can tell you what $4.85 a gallon in August of 2008 meant to my small business, only running 2 trucks on the road. I can only imagine what the loggers, what the truckers, what the farmers and the other industries in the 3rd Congressional District of South Carolina are feeling today with the experience of rising oil prices. Lady from, I think, Massachusetts said that summer prices go up. You know what? We're not in summer yet. Prices are going up because of supply and demand. We have the opportunity to meet our demand right here by harvesting American resources for our American energy needs.
Gentleman's time has expired. Gentleman from Colorado.
I'm prepared to close. I'd like to ask the gentleman if he has any remaining speakers. Thank you. I ask the Speaker how much time remains.
Gentleman from Colorado has 3 minutes remaining.
I yield myself the remainder of the time.
Gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With regard to the last comment, it is the oil cartels that drive prices, not the normal functions of the market and supply and demand. With regard to the oil subsidies, Mr. Speaker, we have an opportunity here today to see where the Republicans and Democrats in the House stand on deficit reduction. Mr. Speaker, by defeating the previous question, we can and we will reduce the deficit by over $12.8 billion. We had the chance to have a discussion around the continuing resolution, around the budget, around deficit reduction. And here we have an opportunity, without impacting the price of oil, without impacting what consumers pay at the pump, to reduce the deficit by $12.8 billion by defeating the previous question. I think that's what the American people want to see. The American people spoke out in the last election. Let's reduce the deficit. Let's work across the aisle to see what we can do to cut unnecessary government expenditures, to make those decisions, to help make sure that we can leave something other than a legacy of debt to the next generation. I think, Mr. Speaker, this is an easy one. Let's defeat the previous question, reduce the deficit by $12.8 billion. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to submit to the record from the general explanations of the administration's fiscal 2012 revenue proposals, page 73, regarding repealing domestic manufacturing deduction for oil and natural gas companies.
Without objection, so ordered.
In this document from the Treasury Department, it states that the manufacturing deduction for oil and gas effectively provides a lower rate of tax with respect to a favored source of income. And in fact, it distorts the market by encouraging more investment in oil and gas industry than would occur under a neutral system. Again, by returning to the free market, we're able to reduce the deficit by over $12.8 billion instead of trying to pick instead of having big government try to pick winners and losers in the economy with regard to tax policy. Mr. Speaker, I'd also like to submit to the record an article from the July 3rd New York Times regarding oil subsidies.
Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you as well. Again, This talks of the oil subsidies that continue to benefit this industry to the detriment of the American taxpayer and to the detriment of future generations of Americans who will continue to suffer under an increasing mountain of debt unless we defeat the previous question here today. Mr. Speaker, 1 year after the national tragedy at Deepwater Horizon, the majority party has decided not to address a single problem that led to this economic tragedy and this environmental tragedy. Instead, the majority is pushing through these bills that simply rubber stamp offshore drilling, maintain taxpayer subsidies and giveaways to big oil that increase the deficit. Just the other night during a special order speech, a member on the other side of the aisle said all you need is an 8th grade understanding of supply and demand to understand why gas prices are high and how we can lower them by drilling more. Fortunately, for those of us who have more than an 8th grade education, like energy economists and other experts know, that America cannot drill its way out of high gas prices. Even the American Petroleum Institute, the mouthpiece for big oil, is saying that we cannot drill our way out. Drill, baby, drill may look good on a bumper sticker, but it's not a sound energy policy. I urge my colleagues to vote no on the bill and defeat the previous question so we can reduce the deficit, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman's time has expired. Gentleman from Utah.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The minority is asking us to walk down a tangent issue by using negative Q words like subsidy. So let me walk down that for 30 seconds. Please realize the U.S. oil and natural gas industry does not receive subsidized payments from the government. The word subsidy is inaccurate. Tax deductions should in no way be confused with the concepts of subsidies. There are, though, tax deductions that go to all industry. Section 199, from which it's been talked about, is the domestic manufacturer's deduction. Every industry, manufacturing, producing, growing, extracting, gets a 9% of earned income deduction, not credit, except for oil and gas, where they are limited to just 6%. There is similarity. They've also asked us to try and walk down a tangent talking about safety, but the ideas of safety are codified in the legislation before us. They then say, let's increase our production by raising taxes. What a non sequitur. Even if you raise taxes against somebody else and try to create some kind of straw man to attack, that's simply a non sequitur, because we do not have a tax problem in this country. We have a production problem. We have a jobs problem. And these two bills go directly to that problem. They increase production and increase jobs. We are not trying to pick winners and losers. We want the Americans to be winners, and that's what our choice is to be. These are two good bills in a time of $4 and $5 gasoline prices that are devastating jobs in our economy. These bills surely should be something that every member should support. Mr. Speaker, with that, I yield back my time, and I move the previous question on the resolution.
Question is on ordering the previous question on the resolution. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker,
gentleman from Colorado.
On that, I request the yeas and the nays.
Yeas and nays are requested. Those favoring a vote by the yeas and nays will rise. Sufficient number having risen, the yeas and nays are ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic device. Pursuant to Clause 9 of Rule 20, the Chair will reduce to 5 minutes the minimum time for any electronic vote on the question of adopting the resolution. Do I gavel?
So the House is holding its first series of votes on the day. Members are now voting on a procedural motion related to the rule for debating two bills, one supporting leases to drill off the coast of Virginia and the Gulf of Mexico, and the other measure, H.R. 1229, would speed the oil drilling lease approval process. Supporters of both these measures claim that approval of the bills would create jobs in the oil drilling industry and reduce oil prices. Those opposed believe it would keep taxes high, it would hurt the environment, and only increase oil company profits. Now, should the rule be approved here, we expect an hour of general debate on H.R. 1230 and 2 amendments. It will be followed by a vote on final passage. Further work on H.R. 1229 would continue next Tuesday. Again, the rule they're voting on pertains to both bills. Votes today expected no later than 3 o'clock, so we're anticipating a 15-minute vote followed by one 5-minute vote. While this vote is underway, we'll bring you a segment from this morning's Washington Journal on the nation's threat level in the wake of the death of Osama bin Laden.
To Representative Loretta Sanchez, Democrat of California, who has two important committee assignments that really think a lot about the implications of the Osama bin Laden killing this weekend. One is Armed Services Committee, and the other is Homeland Security. So let's start with Armed Services and your oversight of the people who were involved in the raid. What's your reaction to the job they did?
Well, I had the honor of being the chairwoman for the subcommittee that deals with all the special forces last year, for the last couple of years. And let me just say that they did an awesome job. Remember that we have used different special forces in different ways. Everybody remembers, for example, the Black Hawk Down situation where things haven't worked out. So these are troops, very specialized, have very special skills. We really invest in them. They're training all the time. We have them in a lot of places in the world. Ready to go in action if we need them, hopefully into situations where we can calm down the situation, make sure that democracy is alive and well and that people are doing well before you ever hear the names of those countries. So to take this little elite group and to do that, and more importantly, to marry them with what we have been doing for a long time now, in particular in the 15 years that I've been in the Congress and on this Armed Services Committee, to marry them with the CIA in this very joint way and to get everybody to work together to go in and be able to do this very discrete task and to make it really happen the way it did. Kudos to all of them, really.
Now, let me move on to the communication of the events by the whole team in the administration. As the days unfolded, the story has become clearer about the circumstances. Do you believe that the administration did the best job it could in the communication surrounding it?
Listen, it's always difficult. We were not there. So even at this point, the perceptions from everybody of what went on, everybody wants so much information right away. We are in a 24-hour news cycle. Everybody's asking, everybody's trying to get information out. People are making things up sometimes as they go along so that they can fill this real appetite for information. So my answer to that is, look, we need to settle back a little here, and we really need to try to understand what actually happened during that hour's process of what was going on. Not just over here in a decision-making capacity, which, by the way, I give also kudos to President Obama for being really so strong and forthright and deciding to go into this in this manner, but also for us to talk to those people who actually were there, to debrief them, and to sort of put together the whole thing. Remember the whole adage of, you know, the 10 blind men who are all touching a piece of an elephant, and they all think that it's something different depending on whether they got the leg or whether they got the tail of the elephant or whether they have the trunk of the elephant. So when we get the opinions, the perception of what was really going on by each of those people involved, we can hopefully put together what that elephant looked like.
So I want to ask more questions about this, but we also very much want your calls, comments, questions on two aspects of this, both the Osama bin Laden operation itself, but also the implications for Homeland Security going forward with our guest, Loretta Sanchez. We'll put the phone numbers on the screen, and you also know you can tweet us and you can send us an email. All that will be clear as we progress, and we put the information below our pictures here. The big story today on every newspaper is the decision by the President yesterday not to release the death photo. Is that the right decision?
Well, I'm a little ambivalent, quite frankly, about that. It's, for me, neither here nor there. But, you know, we always get caught up again in these details. I mean, people always want the details. The reality is the most important thing for the United States is to figure out what went on, why Osama bin Laden was there, what's our relationship with Pakistan, what do we do about Afghanistan, if anything. This whole situation, this precise surgical type of situation, I think harks back to why do we have 120,000 conventional troops hanging out in Afghanistan if Al-Qaeda is maybe a dozen people in Afghanistan? I mean, for me, there are so many larger issues that we should grapple with and try to move forward, because it's costing us lives and it is costing us a lot of money in the current situation that we are. So this ability to get Osama bin Laden and to sort of, that's sort of at the top of the list of how do we begin to phase down what the Congress approved almost 11 years ago, almost 10 years ago, in Let's Go After Him because he did us wrong on 9/11. So the photo, I think it's just an incidental thing, whether it comes out or not.
The President gets some kudos this morning from a page that's often critical of him, the Wall Street Journal editorial page, headline, Obama second-guessing. They write, President Obama ought to have ordered the release of the photographs of Osama bin Laden's corpse. The terror mastermind deserved a burial without a dignified religious ceremony, and administration officials blundered in not getting their story straight about whether bin Laden offered armed resistance before he was shot. That's our view. We also think critics should give the administration some benefit of the doubt on these difficult choices. And right beside that, their big quote, debate over the photos shouldn't detract from the larger victory. Well, it's beginning, we're beginning to have folks who understand this go through what's called the treasure trove of material that was in the bin Laden suite. Here's this little item from the Washington Post this morning. Holder, watch list likely to grow. The trove of material seized in the raid on Osama bin Laden's compound will probably lead to additional people being added to the government's no-fly and terrorist watch list, said the Attorney General on Wednesday. There are currently about 10,000 people on the list. The government's master terrorist watch list is one of about a dozen lists of databases used by counterterrorism officials. In the short run, are Americans more in danger because of possible reprisals after the action?
Well, look, if there are a lot of groups loosely affiliated with al-Qaeda or people who just want to do us harm, and they might look at this as an opportunity to go after Americans. But the fact of the matter is you have to look at the last 10 years. There has not been this type of terrorist attack. They have not been successful. We have really cut the legs off of al-Qaeda, and we have to acknowledge that, celebrate that, and then move forward with that. So I think, no, actually, I don't believe that it means that we are in any more danger than we were before. In fact, it points to the fact that we are becoming very effective, and the fact that we were able to go in and get Osama bin Laden, even when some who were maybe aiding us were supposedly might have known where he was. I mean, this was very effective. We have gotten him. It's the first piece of the puzzle to figure out what to do with the rest of the war on terror. And by the way, it's not just a celebration for Americans. Anybody who believes in true governance by people, in some sort of democracy, whatever that might look like, this is a very positive for nations and people around the world.
When you make reference to some who were supposed to be aiding us, I presume you're referring to the Pakistanis.
Well, you know, it's very interesting. I think that's one of the issues we have to take a look at, where we see, you know, here's a house that supposedly, now remember, it's early on, so who knows if we have all the information yet, but those things that we know publicly that we can speak about. A home that was 8 times larger than any other home in a neighborhood. In a neighborhood very close to what is the West Point of the Pakistan people. A lot of retired military and a lot of retired ISI, or the intelligence agency, the counterpart of the CIA, are in this neighborhood. And you get this home that's got 12 or 18-foot high walls on it, barbed wire, and you don't sit around and say, I wonder what's going on over there in that compound. I wonder who lives there. I believe we have a lot of information, and this treasure trove is going to be important. And I want to add one last thing that I think is important. You know, there were several options given to our president about what to do. Clearly, a very risky option was to go in as we did. But there were probably 2 main reasons that he chose that, and thank God he did. The first one is that we wanted to confirm to ourselves that we had gotten Osama bin Laden, and we have done that. And secondly, this treasure trove, this ability to gather this information so that we can really be much more effective in protecting the world. That is incredibly important. And if we had bombed them, as some within the Pentagon or other places were advocating, we would have lost those two capabilities. So it's pretty great.
I want to share one more story before we go to calls. The lead in USA Today, bin Laden involved in terror planning. U.S. reviews data from Pakistan raid. Kevin Johnson, Mimi Hall, the writers. The cache of information seized from the Pakistani compound of Osama bin Laden and his reliance on couriers suggests that the terrorist leader, despite nearly a decade spent in hiding, still sought to provide strategic guidance to terrorists within the organization, a U.S. government official said on Wednesday. The official, who declined to be identified because the person is not authorized to speak publicly, said the material contained on about 5 computers, 100 remote electronic storage devices such as flash drives, and 10 hard drives is one of the most significant in the history in the war on terror. That's the quote there. Let's take telephone calls, beginning with one from Safety Harbor, Florida. Mike is a Democrat. Mike, you're on.
Hello, C-SPAN. I'm a Democrat that's quickly turning into independent as the days go on, but nonetheless, I appreciate the call. It's been a long time, so I hope you give me some time. She had made a couple comments. First of all, Representative Sanchez, I always see you on C-SPAN when you're doing your debates on the floor, and I love it, virtually every word out of your mouth. I'll just say that.
Thank you, Mike.
But as far as what's going on right now, I need to remind the American people that this is all a big ruse that's pretty much CIA generated. All of these people are supposedly all of our friends, and then we turn them into our enemies to create the ruse to go to war. I'll remind everyone, Anwar al-Awlaki, 9 months after September the 11th, dined at the Pentagon for lunch. That's a provable fact. Fox News and I don't watch Fox News. I just picked them up quickly because I knew I could find it on there. So now he's after us, and basically he's threatening my safety. Everyone knows that Osama bin Laden was a CIA operative in the 80s working against the Mujahideen. So somewhere along the line we double-crossed him, and we did the ultimate double-cross a few days ago when we took him out. I question everybody to ask if the last president, President Bush, who I definitely did not vote for, his father's business partner were bin Laden's brothers. These were facts. On September 11th, they were meeting in the Carlyle Group to discuss the actions. I mean, don't you think it's a little bit more than fishy?
Mike, thanks. I'm going to stop you at that point for a response from the Congresswoman.
Well, Michael, in a lot of ways, I agree with a lot of things that you were saying. Okay, let's begin with that. Let me just say that just as Afghanistan is important to us, so is Pakistan. So to jump on the bandwagon and dismiss that somehow we have no need to have an interaction with Pakistan, I think is not in the best interest of us as Americans. Look, geopolitically, Pakistan is an important country. From a nuclear power perspective, it is an important country for us to pay attention to. More importantly, the number one reason why we need to have some sort of engagement with Pakistan is that we do not want it to become an area in which terrorists are training to come after Americans or American soil. So it's an important relationship. Is it a strong relationship? Is it a, without a doubt, they're in our corner relationship? Absolutely not. Just as I would say the same about Afghanistan and some other partners that we have. And if you've heard me, you know that I've been critical about where we need to be and where we should be. But certainly disengaging without any relationship, it will make our life more difficult as we try to make our future safer. So I appreciate your comments. And believe me, I am not a rollover on this. If you know my positions, you know that I have been an advocate about what the heck are we doing, spending our blood and our treasure in Afghanistan. And I appreciate people who think and read and form opinions. And it's always gray. It's never black and white, so I appreciate what you've said.
Next call comes from Quebec, Canada. Mike, another Mike, independent there.
Good morning, ladies. I had a question in regards to our giving up citizens' civil liberties in order to be more secure. I've contacted the TSA in regards to this question. I think sort of this falls under Homeland Security. So I understand the need to screen every person a little bit more thoroughly before they get on an airplane. But what goes to prevent someone from detonating a bomb while waiting to be screened, or detonating a bomb outside of the airport terminal? I think a bunch of it looks like bells and whistles because it really doesn't make us more secure.
Mike, a question for you. You're calling us from Quebec this morning. Do you travel regularly between the U.S. and Canada?
I actually live in the U.S. and I travel somewhat frequently between Quebec and the United States.
In the past year, there's been an increase in the documentation needed at the Canadian and Mexican borders. You now have to use a passport. What has that screening process been like as you've traveled back and forth compared to past years?
I guess the paperwork is not such an issue, more so along the lines of that I'm presumed a terrorist now, rather than, you know, given probable cause before I have to be patted down or x-rayed. I just wanted to get your comments on that. Like, I don't really feel like giving up my civil liberties to be more safe.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for the question, Michael, because I think it's an important one. I am one of those who believe that when we give up our civil liberties, the terrorists have actually won. I mean, one of the great things about being an American is this whole history that we have of civil liberties. You're looking at someone who voted against the Patriot Act, someone who has voted against FISA, someone who doesn't, you know, I didn't like my mother listening to my phone calls when I was a teenager. I certainly don't want the government listening to my phone calls. So definitely I care about my civil rights, and the extension is that I care about the civil rights of Americans. And I do sit on Homeland, and believe me, I've been one of those people who's been placed on the terrorist list at some point. Luckily, I was able to get myself off because it was a mistake. And I travel the airports all the time. I'm a Californian who comes back and forth to Washington, D.C. every week. So the answer is, to your question, we have had incidents. For example, LAX in front of El Al, which is the Israeli airline, where shooting occurred on curbside as people were going to get in line for the El Al process. So yes, we have to be vigilant in so many ways. We can't capture everything. We can't do everything. It's too costly. Yesterday we had a mass transit hearing in the Homeland Security Committee in the House of Representatives. You know, how do we keep people safe? People get angry when cops make you go around and not stop and wait at curbside at an airport when you're waiting for your wife or somebody to come out from the airport. So there are all sorts of things that we do to try to limit as much as we can the probability that these types of things occur. We can't do it 100%, but I will tell you this. We know, and maybe this treasure trove will tell us again, that these terrorists are fixated on airports. They are fixated on passengers. They love to blow up planes. And as long as we understand that, we will need to continue to figure out what's the best way we can to protect the traveling public.
The Examiner looks at the response to the week's events in Los Angeles, and the headline in it, Los Angeles increases security. Here's what they write. With the threat of retaliation on the minds of everyone now, and the general knowledge that Los Angeles is an obvious target, security forces are being strengthened. KTLA Television reported that Los Angeles County Sheriff Lee Baca has said the biggest concern in Los Angeles is our transit system. The truth of the matter is Los Angeles is taking the threat of terrorism very seriously right now. All local airports are reported as operating in a state of high alert. The LA Times is reporting increased security at large gatherings, such as the upcoming Lakers game, a larger force of plainclothes officers, and more bomb-sniffing dogs. There's even fear of attacks on mosques and other Arab centers, something reminiscent of increased hostility towards Muslims directly following the 9/11 attack. One of our viewers by Twitter asks, our threat level has always been high. How more vigilant can we be?
Well, again, it's a matter of the resources, right? I mean, and of giving up some of our civil liberties. So the answer is, I believe, as I work with my local law enforcement, remember I represent the Anaheim area, which is where we have Disneyland, we have probably the second or third largest convention center in the nation. I have my Mighty Ducks there at an arena that is the third largest grossing arena across the nation for concerts and other big events. So the answer is I represent an area that's, you know, on any given day has an influx of tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people. So we work very closely with our local law enforcement because, as we saw on 9/11, they are the ones who actually have to figure out what's going on the ground, whether it's by response or trying to alert us to things that might be coming. And let's take a look at, I mentioned that yesterday we had this hearing on public transit in the Homeland Security Committee. And one of the things that struck me incredibly, I was dumbfounded, was the head transit cop for Chicago said to us, any things that we have done on securing public transit in Chicago has been paid by the federal government. Not $1 has come from a local level to do that. He said 100% of the security that we have for public transit has come from the federal government. And yet, if you look at our budget and what people are advocating, they're doing away with the monies that we give to a place like Chicago to work on securing our public transit. So, you know, what is it you want? You want us to bring down the federal deficit, but at the same time, we want to be able to have local people use their Chicago lines or the LA line or the subway in New York. And yet, if we look across the nation, most of the money is used to figure out how we thwart things that might happen on public transit have come from the federal government, and those are being cut by the Republicans.
President in New York today to lay a wreath on Ground Zero. He did invite President Bush, who declined to attend. Here's what the tabloids look like today in New York. Bittersweet, President to lay wreath at Ground Zero. Then we can celebrate bin Laden's death, was the New York Post this morning. And Daily News, no photo finish. Obama on way to Ground Zero won't release bin Laden death pics. We're talking about with Representative Loretta Sanchez of California, who is a member of the Armed Services Committee and Homeland Security, about some of the implications of the weekend operation. Next call, Columbia, South Carolina. Ralph, Republican.
Morning.
Good morning.
I have two quick questions for your guest, hoping to get an honest answer from a politician, but stranger things have happened. One is, was the information, any of the information used to nab bin Laden gathered while using enhanced interrogation techniques? And two, why are you, as a Democrat who demanded fair trials by the terrorists during the Bush administration, suddenly so gleeful about executing one of them without even giving them Miranda rights, without even giving them a chance, bin Laden that is, to give themselves and surrender?
Those in favor say
the safety of the soldiers. It did not seem like this party during the Bush years. But here you are. In the past, you spent all the Bush years saying that they need fair trials, they need to be given rights, their fair rights, rather than Miranda Act. And here your own Democratic president shot him without even giving him a chance to surrender. How do you square with that, and how are you so gleeful, and how do you change...
On this motion, the ayes are 241, the noes are 171. The previous question is ordered. The question is on the adoption of the resolution. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker, roll, please.
Gentlemen, ask for a recorded vote.
Yes.
Recorded vote is requested. Those favoring a recorded vote will rise. A sufficient number having risen, a recorded vote is offered or is ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic device. This is a 5-minute vote. 5 minutes.
So the House is now holding its first series of votes again. This is actually the second of two votes. Members voting on the rule for debating two bills, one supporting leases to drill off the coast of Virginia and the Gulf of Mexico. The other measure, H.R. 1229, would speed the oil drilling lease approval process. Supporters of both measures claiming approval of these bills would create jobs in the oil drilling industry and reduce oil prices. Joining us now is Ben Geeman of The Hill. Thanks for joining us, Ben. Gas bills. What are they all about?
Well, these two bills reflect very widespread claims by Republicans and to be fair, Democrats from some sort of areas where you have a lot of drilling, that essentially the administration is bottling up and not allowing access to domestic energy production. And so these bills are part of a kind of three-bill package from the Republicans, and the one that's up on the floor today would essentially set some deadlines for the administration to conduct some offshore lease sales in the Gulf of Mexico, where oil and gas drilling is already allowed, and it would also require the sale of oil and gas leases off the coast of Virginia. Now, that's something that the administration had sort of flirted with, but then in the wake of the BP spill, the administration backed away from plans to allow oil and gas leasing off the coast of some Atlantic states. And so really today you're seeing a lot of kind of cross currents in a big debate that's very much rooted in both high gasoline prices and the high profits that some of the big oil companies, in particular Exxon and Shell, have been reporting. And so what these bills would do would essentially force the administration's hand on allowing greater development. Another bill that's going to be up next week would set some new deadlines for how quickly the administration has to act on drilling permit requests, because you've had widespread complaints from the industry and from Republicans that the drilling permit requests have been slow-walked. Now, the flip side of that is the administration is saying, and Democrats are saying, that what these measures would do would essentially be allowing drilling to go forward as if the BP spill had never happened, and that essentially by creating all these new deadlines that would kind of shortchange some of the environmental reviews that need to be done and some of the safety reviews that need to be done to ensure that drilling proceeds without such, in a way that lessens risks of such a catastrophic spill occurring again.
So now, during debate, we've heard Republicans say, bottom line, these measures would help reduce gas prices at the pump. How would that happen?
Well, that's a pretty controversial claim, quite frankly. It depends what timeline you're looking at. When you're talking about offshore drilling, you're talking about some pretty big projects and expensive projects and complicated projects, especially as the industry has gone into deeper and deeper waters. So, it's given that even when you start a project, it's going to be quite some time until that exploration or even that development project starts to yield new oil supplies, it's unlikely that there would be any type of immediate effect on gasoline prices. That said, you've heard an argument increasingly advanced from the Republicans that says, look, even though it might be some time before this would bring any type of new supplies onto the market, their view is that by sort of signaling that help is on the way, I suppose, that there is going to be more domestic supply developed, that this would essentially send a signal of sorts to traders that would sort of, in the nearer term, in fact, start to affect prices, not necessarily because there's new supply coming online, but rather because if you sort of look at the market psychology, when traders feel like there's more supplies on the way, in a sense, that would sort of tamp down on some of the fear that unrest in the Middle East and other problems are going to lead to longer-term shortages.
Just a couple of seconds left. Has Energy Secretary Stephen Chu commented on either of these measures? And if so, what's he saying about the proposed changes in policy?
Well, it's actually the Interior Department that controls offshore oil and gas drilling and leasing decisions. And Interior Secretary Ken Salazar has spoken out very strongly about these measures. He told reporters at a press conference a couple weeks ago in advance of the one-year anniversary of the BP disaster, he said, look, these GOP bills reflect what he called an amnesia about the offshore catastrophe last year. He says it's essentially requiring, leasing and production and development to go ahead in a way that, is not sufficiently mindful of the need for greater acknowledgement of safety and so forth, given what happened last year with the Deepwater Horizon rig.
Any comments from oil company executives about the bills?
Well, the industry is very supportive of measures that would allow both wider access, but also have the Interior Department speed up what they say is an overly cumbersome and time-consuming process for drilling permits. What you're hearing the industry saying is, look, we have taken a great number of steps in the wake of the spill to enhance the safety of our projects, and they've launched this new sort of offshore drilling safety institute. But their view is also that, they can go forward in a way that's very mindful of safety, but without taking as much time as the Interior Department has been taking to get these permits out the door.
Ben Geeman of The Hill, we thank you for your time today.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Mr. Hoyer. Mr. Hoyer votes no.
On this vote, the yeas are 245, the nays are 167. The resolution is adopted. Without objection, a motion to reconsider is laid on the table. Gentleman from Washington is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that all members may have 5 legislative days in which to revise and extend their remarks